Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sellik the Thunder podcast. It's been a while. It's been almost, I think, 2 weeks since we've done our last episode, boys, when we done our first ever episode of the Ange Postecoglou era. Me and Kieran took a wee bit of a holiday. We were off in London. Ryan, in the meantime, sat up here with the supporters back home. It was an eventful Euro 2020/21 campaign for Scotland, but it's over now and we can come back to talking about club football, which I'm more than happy to do. So, before we go any further, lads, the question is, I'll open this to the two of you. Have you spent your £50 voucher yet for the season ticket renewals?
Not yet, no. I'm waiting to see if the home kit rumours are true and it is or not a travesty like the one I've seen. I'll probably spend it on the training talk, to be honest, that mint one. I really like it.
That's nice, isn't it? What about you, Kieran? You treated yourself to anything for Peter Law's Chocolate Factory yet?
My original plan was to hold off and see what the home top looked like, but as soon as I seen that leaked the other night, I was like, nope, bought the away one. So
have you bought the away one? Aye. Just now. So it's actually, do you know what? I slated it when it was first revealed.
I know you did.
I know you did. I did this. I slaughtered it, and I wasn't a big fan, but it is much nicer in person. It's a nice way to open up the show. Let's talk about the new kits because all three have now been leaked, and you know, we all know that I love my kit discussions. I do my videos every year, and obviously I collect football kits, so I do like talking about them. The home kit is a bit of a letdown, isn't it? It's very Ronnie Dyla. What was it, 15-16 kit?
15-16.
Yeah. The question is Lee Griffiths going to score 40 goals in this kit?
That's what I was thinking. Is he going to think this is like a comeback season back to his best days as a Celtic player? Is this the sort of motivation that he needs to get kick-started again? Hopefully not. Hopefully he's out the club. But no, I'm not a big fan of it. I think they've messed with the hoops too much. I think last season's was a lot nicer.
Yeah, the original leak was basically last season's without the yellow, if we remember rightly. Which,
I liked it as well. I was looking forward to that kick being released, and then the other night I seen this with the 15-16 hoops on it. I was like, oh, Christ, no.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about a debate, there was a massive debate surrounding the leaked third kit, which, do you know what, if you haven't seen them yet, feel free to head over to the Sellik the Thunders podcast Twitter account, or my Twitter account, or Ryan or Kieran's, anybody's, because I think we've all retweeted it or something at some point, and you can see the kits for yourself if you haven't seen the leaked photos. The third kit has split opinion big time. The white number with the badge in the middle, with the thin pink and green pinstripes, I'm going out on a limb right now and saying it's one of the best kits we're going to have. It's just gorgeous. I love it. I'm looking forward to actually seeing it on someday. I don't know what you think, but I think it's bizarre, it's different, and if we have a good season, it'll be one that we're all wearing to European away trips in 30 years' time. That is my opinion.
I agree that it could become a classic if this season goes well, right? But see, just as soon as I seen it, I was like, what the fuck is that? Because it's just... honestly, it's just the shock factor of seeing a kit like that. I mean, it is out the box and that, but I don't know. I'd like to see it actually in person to make a proper judgment. But judging for the photos, it's going to take a long time before I part with my money for that.
Oh, really? It's the first I'm buying at the minute, is it?
It's grown on me, to be honest. I like the wee detail on the back or on the sort of collar or whatnot. It's got the stained glass window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that, right? But who's going to see it?
that is true.
Walk about with on a coat hanging in front of you, and people might see it instead of actually having it on. But
no, I like that. I know it's in the inside of the shirt, but I like it. It's a nice wee bit of detailing. But what I was going to say about that shirt is it definitely does grow on you, because my first reaction to the photo, like when I first opened the photo, I was like, that is a monstrosity. Then I found myself within 10 minutes going, actually, this is delicious. Every passing minute it's went on. I actually quite like the top. So I'm looking forward to seeing the reveal. I've heard from a couple of people who managed to see it one way or another in person, or apparently been able to see it in person anyway, that it is very, very nice. It looks a lot better than it does in that photo. So we'll wait and see. I'm going to be parting with my money for the away, as I already have the away in the third anyway. So it's all about the home now. Do you think there's any saving that way a sponsor slapped across it? Because right now it's just not for me at all.
It's not very nice at all.
I think very much like Lennon's first season when he was back in charge for a second time, I'm going to leave this one out because I didn't like that one with the wee white bit down the top. I didn't like that either.
What top you talking about? Oh,
the Julian top.
Yep. The hanging one, right? Aye.
Mm-hmm. That's the one. That, to be honest.
Aye, I quite like it.
I didn't mind it, but I didn't.
It's not a classic by any means.
No.
Nah. It reminds you very much of that Europa League campaign. That's what I think of. Like
that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Julian scoring.
Aye, It's nice though. I actually picked out the cupboard the other day to put on, and I was like, I don't give this top not enough respect, because I think you're right, Kieran, like you said, it's not a classic or anything, but I actually quite like it. It's smart.
Yeah, wake it for that season's what you want to be talking about, but Witten Chamswell in the background and you're sitting.
The yellow one, what a gorgeous shot that was. Anyway, we'd be here all day if we were talking about kits, but we'll wait and see when the pictures are out and we can review on further detail. Ange Postecoglou has arrived at Celtic. He is finally here. He's done his press conference to introduce himself to the Celtic support. He also took part in what has now become the highly controversial fan media press conference we'll come on to later on. And he's started his first training sessions with the club. Ryan, we went live after the press conference the other day on YouTube and gave our initial reaction, our first impressions to the new manager. So, Kieran, I'm going to just open up the floor. What you thinking so far the first week with Ange at the club, all the videos we've been given of him at training, the way he speaks, everything else? Are you happy that we've finally got our man, and what do you make of him?
I know, I'm happy that we've finally got the wheels in motion. We've got the guy in the door, and as suspected, he spoke a very good game, and there's a sort of era positivity now about Celtic that we've not had for a long time, and it's everybody seems to be getting behind the manager, as everybody said we would, even if we held objections to his appointment in the first place. He's in now. There's no point complaining about it. But I don't think many people are now. They've heard him talk. He talks a good game, and everybody seems to be on board due to the fact that he seems really confident in the fact to be getting Celtic to play his style of football. And a style of football is something that we've been severely lacking over the past season. Over the past year, we've seen teams put out in the park with the hopes of one individual moment of magic to win the game. No structure, no plan in place. But now it seems like we're going to have a proper structured actual way of playing behind us, and hopefully we can get the players to buy into that.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about on that pre-post reaction that me and Ryan done about trying to get players to buy into it, and he touched on that. He was asked about Lee Griffiths and such, and a few state the club. We'll come to that, of course, but yeah, it's about getting those players to buy in. Absolutely, Ryan. So, I mean, you have given a lot of your reaction, but as to what Kieran said there, I guess you're very much on side with him and what most of your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't feel as if there's that sort of negativity now, because everything is done. It's Ange Postecoglou as the manager, we've just got to deal with it. And I thought, in terms of first impressions from a number of interviews that he's done, he's talked a good game, and I like that he also alluded to the fact that he knows that he's only talking the talk. He's got to walk the walk as well. I like that he alluded to that. He knows that talk is cheap in this business. He's got to have the results to back up his claims. So yeah, it's definitely a positive. I thought they both came across quite well, Mackay and Postecoglou, especially in the fan media one. I managed to watch that after the reaction that we done, and I thought it was on the whole quite good. I thought a bit problematic with the question at the start, and then a bit problematic at the question towards the end. But see that middle bit, that was good. That was exactly what I wanted to hear.
If there was a good, it's good that these things have now been established, and I guess we'll come on to that. We'll get the chance to ask the kind of pressing questions that the media might not get the answers to, the traditional media. Kieran, there's a representation of you and the Celtic Thunder of being the kind of feistier one, we could say. Of course, you're very blunt and honest with your opinions. Ange Postecoglou was similar in a sense on, when was it? Was it Thursday? He was the same. With a couple of his answers, he quickly shot down, I believe it was the BBC, for asking about his jump from a lower level, as they dubbed it. Now, we all held a similar opinion. We can't masquerade lies here. We can't masquerade ourselves and lie about it. We had a concern that he was coming from Australia and he was coming from Japan, that he wasn't a household name. There was that original concern, but the way Ange answered to it, it tells you a lot about the guy, the character of him. Obviously his views in football, he's very passionate as well, and he's clearly backing himself as the right man for this job. It was nice to see that kind of hunger from him and that kind of passion in his answers, and quickly telling the journalists that he isn't a nobody.
See, that's the sort of thing we'd heard from people in Australia over the past, say, month or so. They've spoke about his character in terms of, you've seen clips and that him in press conferences getting kind of cheeky with the media. But I mean, with some of the questions that get asked, I mean, as we said, he's going to have an uphill battle coming over here, especially for the media and obviously fans as well, subconsciously thinking that he's came from Australia and Japan, and is it at the right level for us? But I mean, obviously they worries are in the past now, and I suppose he answered it the way we spoke about the fact that we did have our concerns, but we tried to be a bit respectful towards. We only try to diminish his. Like, a lot of people will try to say, "Oh, win the Australian League or win the Japanese League." It doesn't mean it. And not once do we come out and try and diminish the man's responsibility. Fucking went blank on the word there, but his achievements. But he's still a bit cloudy for London, man. But
it's a long recovery for you, God's sake. Coming back a week.
But what's it called? We didn't try and play down his achievements in any sense. We'll try to be respectful, even though we did have concerns. But I mean, you like to see that, and I suppose you could say Lennon was a bit feisty with the media last year, but he was just being very defensive with every question. He Postecoglou chooses his moments. It seems to put reporters down when it's deserved. He's came out. He's been pretty open and honest, and as Ryan said earlier, he knows that people aren't going to take him like as a proper serious guy until he proves it on the park.
Yep, Hugh Keevans actually wrote quite a good article this morning that I was reading. I know Hugh Keevans is another man who's divisive in Scottish football. But obviously I've always said I'm a big fan, but he wrote a good article this morning, Ryan, that was talking about how he's not a man to be trifled with, I believe was the quote. Now Kieran alluded very well there to the past with Neil Lennon and the way he handled himself in the media. There is quite a clear distinction. There's a difference between the two. There's a distinct difference between them. I think Ange Postecoglou is someone who's not going to just throw his toys out the pram, but he will certainly make sure to look out for himself, look out for the best interests of him and the club, but doing it in a manner that is professional at the same time. So he came out and he was like, I could have been the fifth choice. I'm not really bothered. This is a guy who's now just hungry to get started, and I think that's just all we can really ask for. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I would say it is quite similar to Lennon in the stance that it's his way or the highway. Basically, if you're not on his boat, you're going to be somewhere else, and I like that. I like that he's going to stand up for the club and he's not going to take any prisoners when it comes to press conferences. But if he's doing it in a measured sort of way, when Lennon done it, it wasn't measured. You saw that after the Dubai debacle. He came back and he was just all guns blazing, and it looked totally unprofessional. All the Celtic, I would say 60-70% of I don't want to talk for the Celtic fans, because that's been thrown about a lot recently, that the podcast talk for Celtic fans when we're just putting out our opinions. But I would say that a lot of the Celtic fans were very embarrassed by the way Neil Lennon handled himself after the Dubai debacle, the press conference that happened. So it'd be good to have a guy that's sort of measured in these press conferences, but at the same time is willing to take no prisoners.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there was a lot of things covered in that press conference. We could be here all day talking about it. So let's move on to the pressing issues of the press conference, which will kind of split into different sections of our show. For everybody who is listening at this moment in time, we've got our Twitter questions towards the end that are sent in by the viewers. We've got a quiz where Kieran will be taking on Ryan. First one we've done in a while, actually. And also, I think that this might be the last ever episode we should hopefully be doing on Zoom. We should be in person next time. So I forgot to mention that at the start, so look forward to that. Listen, the first thing that was big in a talking point for that press conference was the director of football conversation. Let's jump into that. Gordon Strachan was a no. It was huge. He couldn't have been any clearer on the subject. There was no dancing around the question when the name was brought up. Don Mackay said no. Was that music to your ears, Kieran?
Yeah, absolutely, especially after seeing some people on Twitter try and peddle the idea that he'd be a brilliant appointment for Celtic after he was talking on the STV coverage for the Scotland games. People heard him talking on that and thought, this guy knows football inside out. He's brilliant for... I'm like, the guy's, what is he, technical director at Dundee or something? He spent half his time on Celtic TV. I'm like, is this guy really... I don't know. Gordon Strachan,
bigger wage packet though, isn't it? Bigger wage packet.
He was a very good manager for Celtic in his day, but I feel like I think we should really move away from trying to employ people that have been at the club previously. Just move away from it, move in a new direction. He had his time. He done very well for Celtic. Got us to last 16 in Champions League twice. But that was over 10 years ago. Just leave it in the past and move in a fresh direction. I think he very well could come in and do all right, but I'd rather not take that chance. I'd rather we moved in a different direction and take a chance on somebody new and try and be progressive and modernise the club, which is a term that's been getting thrown about a lot. And I think we should really try to aim to do that instead of going back to the people that we've employed in the past.
It kind of just backtracks on everything about modernising and what is the other word they keep using again? Modernising and evolving, was it? The evolution of the club?
Evolving and world class in every department.
Yeah, so look, there's no denying Gordon. I don't think any of us for a second would say Gordon Strachan doesn't know anything about football. Of course he does. He's been a successful player and manager. I don't think anybody would say that, but it's just not. Have we not learned a lesson about employing previous managers? Like, we literally just went through the season of hell because of that, man.
I know a lot of people are given the same sort of excuses to give Gordon Strachan the director of football job, the same excuses that they gave Lennon the manager's job. He knows the city, he knows the club. These are the same things that caused us to have our worst season in the best part of 20 years, you could say. I just don't like the dynamic that it would create at the club. The fact that Gordon Strachan would be in a director of football role when he's already previously been the manager.
Yep.
I feel like that's the two are clashing. The two would clash, Postecoglou and Strachan. And I don't know how much he would peddle in Postecoglou's affairs. I don't like the idea of somebody going.
Sorry, just for you saying that, I think it reeks of Craig Levein when he was director of football at Hearts, and then he was pulling all the strings. And then when whoever got sacked, he then stepped in. They couldn't get rid of him. Like, I can envision something like that happening if the worst case scenario happened, and that is just certainly not the right direction Celtic need to be moving in.
See, for me, I don't know. Gordon Strachan gives me this sort of vibe that if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. Once he's in there, it'll be so difficult to get him out of there if problems started to arise. That just it seems like a problem that we just don't need. We need somebody that's first of all qualified in the director of football's role, that has experience in that role, and somebody that isn't really connected with the club. I think they need to be independent coming into the club. They need to have their own fresh canvas. I don't know about you too, but I feel like if it was Strachan, there would certainly be a bit of a, I don't want to say personality clash. It's not as if we know too much about Ange, but I feel like, as you've already said, with him previously being a manager, there's just a bad vibe or something there.
They seem like two guys that would want to be in complete control. I don't think that really bodes well. But just in terms of, I just can't see it. I can understand why some people like Gordon Strachan. He does talk a good game, as we've said about Postecoglou and that. But for the very fact people were on side just for his coverage on STV, the Scotland game, I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, how easy is it? I need to jump on the radio and I get my name put forward for it.
I know. I've been doing this for 5 years. Surely I'm a shooting for the job at this, but I don't know what I'm talking about.
The baffling thing for me is I feel like a lot of Celtic fans are still far too comfortable with employing people that they know rather than giving other people.
Do you think that's more down to? Do you think that's down to fear or sentimentality?
Both at the same time.
I don't know. The fear of the unknown might be a thing, but it's just, I quite liked hearing Don Mackay that saying about the fresh perspective, and it sort of buys into that as well. If we get another fresh perspective in, we've not got the old pals act going on with Gordon Strachan, and I don't know. I would rather have people come in and try with a fresh perspective and fail than employ these people.
Because it shows that we'd be going in the right direction in terms of modernising the club. You don't want the same people hanging about for 20, 30 years. You don't even want that in the boardroom. It's got to be fresh. The club has gone stale, and we need to get this freshness in and about the place.
Well, talking about freshness, that leads me on perfectly to the next point around the director of football. There was no real clarification on whether or not, well, there will be a director of football, in all honesty. They never really gave us a concrete answer. Now, I like the fact that Ange Postecoglou is the one that's going to get to sit down and make a lot of the big decisions in terms of staffing. We'll come to Kennedy and Strachan a bit later on, I imagine, but we've heard that he will evaluate and see where he needs staff and who he thinks is the right men for the jobs. But he will also have the opportunity to see if the director of football is needed. The worrying thing for me is, and this was probably the only negative I took away from the press conference, we went from having a certain director of football for months with Fergal Harkin to suddenly being in a situation where we're not quite clear on whether or not we're getting one. So, Ryan, does that concern you slightly? You want them to kind of give us more of a clarification on that process and where we're at with it?
It concerns me to an extent that he didn't give us a solid answer, but at the same time, he doesn't want to give all his game plans out to the media and to the fans as well, because that would then be documented. You don't want all your stuff. I mean, as much as we want to hear about stuff going on in the background, you don't want to hear stuff going on in the background because that could potentially cause another club to come in and whisk away your shortlist or the people that you're trying to employ. I still think it will be the case because I think Ange does need some help in terms of scouting different areas, and the fact that we need to replace Hammond as well and Penrice as well, he's gone as well. There are vacancies that need to be filled, and I think that a director of football, a chief scout, and some more scouts will come in. It's just a matter of getting the right people in. I think it will happen. It will just take more time.
What about you, Kieran? What did you think about the conversation surrounding that?
I don't know. I mean, I do like the fact that we've always spoke about the importance of letting him have his own coaching team and that around him, but I don't know, because I can't wait for the media to try and say Kevin Muscat's going to be the assistant manager again when he tells Kennedy to get to fuck. But nah.
That video, I love just think about that video they put the Instagram, like when he comes into me. I was trying to screenshot like Kennedy and Strachan at the same time at the table with Ange, so that I could put like, oh, it looks as though they're going to be what we on the Twitter, like, oh, Kennedy and Strachan are still here. It looks as though they're going to work together. And I managed to just screenshot it at the point where it looks as though he's removing Strachan for the table. Like, I was like, that'll make a good tweet.
Right, you get.
Right, pal, what you get. Like, honestly, it just looked like a bouncer removing somebody. The director of football one for me is something that we'll get more on soon, I think.
You'd like to think so, because you keep talking about the modernising of the club and that, and I mean, it is good to give more powers to the manager, but if you're committed to getting a new structure in place, then
I feel like Don Mackay's banged on far too much there about this modernisation for there not to be one. I think it would just again it would backtrack, just like a point in Strachan as the director of football. This would also backtrack on the modernisation of the club if we went to a point one. You said it well, Ryan. It's such a hard balance to giving enough information that satisfies us, but then giving out too much information that could put situations at jeopardy. So it is that hard balance to find. Ryan, you looked as though you were going to say something just before I butted in there.
I was going to talk more specifically about Strachan and Kennedy. I feel like Ange Postecoglou said the same sort of thing to the assistant managers and the coaches that he has to the players. He said sort of everyone is going to be moving in my direction, and I feel like that includes the coaches as well. The coaches are going to have to do what he does. If they want to adapt, they can adapt. It's adapt or perish for these guys, because if they don't adapt, then they'll be out the door. That's what I sort of grasped from the press conference anyway.
Because he made that same sort of comment in regards to Lee Griffiths. It's like, I need to see if they will buy into my project before I make any big decisions here. So yeah, there'll probably be a lot more to come on that front with the director of football and such. I think it's right now a matter of just hoping that they do make the right decisions. But I'm getting a vibe that right now things are probably going to start going in a nice kind of progressive way, and it will happen quite smoothly because, there's been a lot of talk about signings. There's apparently players and talks with the club. So we'll come to that as well. Kennedy and Stratton, Kieran, do you think they're the kind of guys that are going to do their best to buy into this to keep their job, Kieran?
Yeah, I'd imagine they'll get a good try and buy into it. Well, I know Big Ange is in favour of keeping them around. I suppose he'll have time to assess them as well as the players. But the fact we're only about 3 weeks away now for Champions League, so we've not got an awful lot of time if he wants to bring in his own coaches. So I think we might actually need to, I don't know if we're going to get a new coaching team, certainly not in time for competitive football starting. Certainly not, but I don't know. I've got this feeling they probably will stick around.
Yep.
But hopefully it works out. I don't hope that these guys fail. I mean, hopefully they turn it around and actually become good coaches for Celtic. But in the past season, we've just got the inkling that it will work out. But I suppose we'll wait and see.
Me and Ryan touched on this, I think, the last live one, didn't we, Ryan? We were saying, it would be good to keep them around, but maybe move them into another, the Colts role or the youth or something.
Do you think he'd take Kennedy would go down to the Colts?
I think he would until another opportunity. I think that maybe he would until another opportunity maybe rose for him.
Do you think it would take a long time for another opportunity to arise? Because there always seems to be one job in Scotland that the manager ends up at the door quite quickly.
Depends where he sets his ambition in it, because it's like in my head, Kennedy is somebody who would want a Hearts, a Hibs job or something like that. Because
do you not think he'd take a top of the Championship? No.
See, that's what I'm thinking. Would he? I think he'd probably get a better wage and such working at the Celtic Colts or staying at Celtic in a reduced role. So I don't know, but then again, it's about furthering himself as a manager, isn't it? It just depends on his ambition at that point.
The amount of talk that's with the Colts just now, with both the Celtic and Rangers sides both being in the Lowland League, I still think there's a spotlight on Kennedy. if he was to go down there.
Mm-hmm.
There is they are the talk down there. Let's be perfectly honest. They are the teams that everyone is going to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a bigger sort of spotlight on that league because of those two teams.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just the way it is. I know the teams can sort of complain about that, but that is just the way it is. At the end of the day, we have two big
well
teams.
done. Not only have we turned a portion of the Celtic support away from us this season, Ryan, you have single-handedly destroyed all of our connections with Lowland League fans. Well done.
That's, it has to happen. We're Celtic. Come on.
It is what it is. I quite it's the truth though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there is going to be a bigger spotlight because Celtic and Rangers are down there, and there's talk about them potentially going into League Two the season after.
Oh, right, there's
Ryan
away.
Sort of evolution. Sorry,
it
lagged off there. It lagged off on my screen, not on yours. But I can't see this sort of evolution happening. If you're talking about a sort of modernisation, then a Colts team I think is so important, getting them in the Lowland League and then maybe League Two. If that's the sort of modernisation that Dominic Mackay's talking about, then I'm all for that, because most of the big teams have that, maybe further afield than England, like Ajax and Barcelona. So why can't we have it?
Yeah, spot on. Let's move off the press conference. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I'll open up the floor about Ange's first week. Anything at all to do with the Postecoglou? Anything at all? It's like when you ask a question at the end, like your lecturers at the end, like, anybody got any questions? And just static silence.
It's just nice to have some positivity about a press conference again. And in the past 6 months, I've been moaning about press conferences, so it's nice to be quite happy about it.
I'd like to also add, where was your invite?
There's Kieran there. Where is your invite? I know.
You had that cunt ranting and raving about Masonic referees, and we didn't even get an invite. Jesus Christ.
Oops,
it's fair to say I think there'll be a couple of spaces for the next time. or maybe
it's a straight lunatic for lunatic swap, but maybe that's a reserved spot just to keep it spice up a bit.
Listen, we were saying we're going to go, and when it's our turn to go, when we finally get the invite, we're going to just pop up with random trivia questions for Postecoglou. What was the one that you said you were going to ask here about the pyramids?
I was going to ask him how he thought the pyramids were built. If any representative from Celtic is watching this, we will not ask that.
No, we don't
maybe we're like the second tier of podcasts, and we're waiting until those other podcasts get a red card. We're just waiting in the wings.
We'll do something bad.
We'll wait and see what happens. Hopefully we're there at the next one or whatever, so we can make a presence for the Sellik the Thunder. Really show them who we are. Right, so there's been talk, there's been rumours, there has been conversation about Celtic and their recruitment for the coming season. There are names in the offing. There is apparently players in talks with the club, ongoing talks, which is what you want to hear. Even though we don't have a director of football, even though we don't have Gary Penrice or whatever anymore, we're still managing to maybe get a couple of players through the door. Vuskovic is the main one. Mario Vuskovic, the centre half from Croatia. I am very excited personally from the reading up I have done of Mario Vuskovic. Now, Ryan, before we came on to do the podcast today, you said, have you heard this about... So you have something for us here?
No, I was just reading what a journalist has to say.
Can I quickly say, like, I've been frightened this whole time leading up to this moment in case you're about to tell me he's like a far right extremist or something.
No, it's nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with that.
Di Canio on our hands.
Di Canio, aye.
What I'll say about Vuskovic is, from what I've read about him, he seems like a sort of Ayer replacement than a sort of defender replacement.
I watched that compilation on YouTube, and I was like, why is this guy playing so far forward? I was like, there was only like a minute or something, but he was on the edge of the other team's box hitting shots. I was like, Jesus.
But if you see the way that Ange Postecoglou's teams play, he wants the defenders up high like that, so it's a perfect signing if it does go through.
Perfect, yeah, I would agree with you, but there will be that there's going to be a considerable amount of people that will doubt and will be worried about high pressing defenders because of what we've had to go through over the past 12 months. Now, the only difference is this is a 19-year-old young Croatian who does like to have a bit of legs around him rather than Shane Duffy, who turned like milk. So, there is quite a difference there. Kieran, what is your thoughts so far? If anything, my opinion is, put the player aside for a moment. This is a guy who looks as though we're going to go and spend £5 million on. The main story about this signing for me is ambition. That's what I like about it. We're away spending £5 million in a centre half. I'm hoping that means we're going to be doing this in a number of key areas.
I know, but with Vuskovic, I mean, it's the sort of calibre of player, maybe not the calibre, but the sort of signings that you'd think Celtic would be making if we're moving forward, because the whole point of Celtic is we've been complaining about not being able to get the maximum value for Edward and Ayer and all these players. But I mean, Celtic's whole business model really has to be buying young, high potential players and then selling them at their peak value. If we want to be consistent about it, that's going to need to be the business model Celtic follow in terms of transfers. And this guy, I know it can be seen as a gamble because he's a 19-year-old playing for Hajduk Split and we don't really know a lot about him, but you need to sort of trust that, even though it can be hard to trust considering some of the signings we've made in the past, but that this guy is going to be a player that we can then sell on for 15-20 million pound and also get a good few years at Celtic. So I don't know, it's a signing that every signing comes with risk, but I think that's the sort of signings that we need to really be making.
Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of Mark McKenzie. When we were getting linked with him, we didn't know a lot about him. If anything, we'd never really heard of him before he was linked with Celtic. And you know, he was getting looked at by a number of good clubs, just as Vuskovic is. You know, there's talk about Torino and all that, and another few Italian sides looking at him, and he's been scouted all over Europe. This is the kind of player Celtic need to go for. This is, you know, I see people, remember last season, people like, oh, Declan Gallagher, get him. Absolutely not. You know, this is the kind of signing we should be making.
It's very similar to Simunovic, because we got him for Dinamo Zagreb for about £5 million, but that didn't work out, obviously, due to like injuries and that. We end up never getting a penny from him. I don't think he's got a club yet. I know he's training with teams.
I was thinking about this the other day. Like, it's mad. He's just took a year out. He's took a gap year.
Like a player that's actually at times are a bit dodgy for Celtic, but gave a good few years of service and had some pretty big performances in a Celtic shirt. But I mean, obviously that didn't work out in terms of selling him on for more money or that. But I think it's very similar signings, obviously, both for Croatia, both signed at a young age. But I think that did hold him back was injuries. But I don't know, it's not saying this couldn't work out.
Yeah, Ryan, what's your thoughts, Vuskovic? I know it's the kind of player that you're going to dig.
Yeah, he's definitely the sort of player that I would like to see at Celtic Park. If he's as good as the last centre back that could take free kicks at Celtic, then we'll be on to a winner. Because I seem to remember Van Dijk could take a good free kick when he was at Celtic. But see if teams like Torino and Napoli previously are in for this guy when he was 17, 18, 19 years old, there must be something about him, and it shows that we've done our research with regards to getting this guy scouted and watching him. I'm all for it. I think we should be looking into the Croatian market. You see players even recently that have done well in the league from the Croatian market. I don't want to talk about them too much, but Barisic has been a bit of a revelation for Rangers. So it's that sort of market that we should be pursuing, and it's a market that we've sort of maybe discarded the past couple of years because we were in pursuit of the 10, so we were looking for more readily made players, but that never works out for us because we had no resale value, or we got them on loan and they just plugged the gaps that we had. It's good that we're going back to the model that worked so well in the past.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to potentially bringing in a player who's younger and definitely has that potential, I think, behind him. And as you've already said, the clubs that are looking at him, it gives me hope. But the good thing is Celtic are now in a position that looks as though they are poised to land him. We're apparently willing to offer double what Torino are offering them in a wage. So
that was good. It's
really good to hear that.
And
And look, I know the Italian footballing state isn't in the greatest in terms of finances. I think a lot of teams are struggling over there at the moment with the financial situation. And even it goes from top to bottom. It even goes to stretches as far as Inter Milan, I believe. There's a lot of teams struggling. So that could be mostly the biggest reason for that. But the other thing that you can think of is, well, at least Celtic are actually wanting to compete and put money down now, rather than, you know, missing out on players because they weren't wanting to shell out a few £1,000 or whatever. So that kind of makes you a bit more ambitious about the rest of the signings too.
You'd like to think the days are behind us now in terms of forfeiting getting players like McGinn, even going back to Stephen Fletcher and that, just for the sake of a couple 100,000. It's nice to see Celtic actually being able to compete with teams, and hopefully we do sign the boy and it works out. But it's just mental to think that we're offering more money than teams in the Serie A.
I know. Scottish Premiership, baby. It's different.
The the thing is, though, we'll be offering a project as well, and it seems like from his camp that it seems like this is the preferred destination because it would be better for his chances in terms of a long-term career. When you look at it, he'll probably will get thrust straight into the first team alongside Julian, you would think, when he's back fit. So all of a sudden, that defence is looking a lot better if it's Julian and Vuskovic. I don't know about you guys, but that looks a lot better.
Rather than Welsh and Julian.
It sounds a lot more appealing. As long as I can go a season without having to see Beaton being a mainstay in that centre half position, like, fair enough. I've accepted the fact they might have to plug your gaps and that, come on as a sub, but I swear, if I see that man starting 15, 20 games for Celtic in that position, Jesus Christ.
It is gross negligence having him in centre half. We should never be getting to that place. Yeah. Celtic should have 4 centre backs, 2 for every side that are able to go in, and then have youngsters behind them that can go and.
We signed a corner for Man United, and the boys don't had a shout yet because Beaton's getting the chances ahead of him.
He was playing as right back, so
right back and centre half. So
see, I don't know if you like come on to this, Ryan, but see, just because we're talking about centre backs, before I forget, like Sviatchenko, like the rumours, are you planning on talking about that?
Well, look, listen, we may as well touch on it, but they've kind of gone quiet, which is...
I know, because I seen another article today saying he'd be like open to it and that, but he doesn't know what the case is. But I feel like that might be another example he is moving backwards rather than forwards. I never had a problem with the guy at Celtic, but I don't know, you could argue he's maybe entering into his prime years as a centre half, the 29, early 30s sort of thing.
The way I worded it, and I'm glad you brought it up, Kieran, the way I worded it, so I made a video the other day and it was called I Am Worried for Celtic Football Club. I basically just went on a rant for 15 minutes about how we were moving backwards rather than forwards. In the space of 2 days from that video, I was then talking about how I'm excited for Celtic Football Club. It was quite the roller coaster. It's a roller coaster, honestly. You don't know what fucking direction you're going in. But what I said in that video was, look, I was a massive fan of Sviatchenko. I know he split opinion. People thought he was good. People didn't think he was good enough. I was one of the ones that thought he was good. I think he had leaps and bounds to go. And arguably, he's maybe done that at Midtjylland. He's went across and he's won the title and he's been doing well and getting to the European football, and he's probably got a lot better as a player. But the way that I said it was, Sviatchenko coming in at the end of the window is maybe a kind of last-minute backup signing or depth signing, whatever, I'd be completely fine with. I'd be happy with that. I'd welcome him back with open arms. And I'd welcome him back with open arms and to any extent. But I'd be so much happier with him coming into the end of the window to buff up the numbers rather than being one of the first signings we make and giving me the impression that our scouting department has nowhere to turn other than former players. So that was the way I was kind of looking at it.
Two things. Sorry.
No, and you go, Ryan. I was just going to absolutely ramble there.
Two things I'll say about Sviatchenko, and these are 2 definites. He hasn't got any taller and he hasn't got any faster in the 4 years since we had him. So I don't see why we would be in for him now, apart from sentimentality.
That's the key word, isn't it? What were you going to say, Kieran?
No, it's just why they signs that you get people that... I'm not saying he was bad at Celtic, right? But you've got a lot of people, as soon as... I've said this so many times, as soon as somebody leaves Celtic, you forget all the bad. You forget... With Lustig, everybody remembers him fondly. I remember him fondly for the fact he got what it was about to be a Celtic player. I'm thankful for the good performances he put in. But I'll tell you one thing, I do not forget him getting torn apart in the Old Firms game after game in the last season. And people seem to forget that. I've seen people saying in the past few weeks, since we've seen him at the Euros, we should never let him go. Why do we let him go? That's comfy. I don't know if this is a similar sort of thing with Sviatchenko as well, because even at the time, Rodgers didn't want him in the team, and we trusted Rodgers' judgment. If he's not good enough for Rodgers, he's not good enough for Celtic. And now that we've got the rumours back again, he could have matured as a player, might have become a better defender, but I don't know, it just reeks of going backwards, because if a manager such as Rodgers has discarded him and thought, nah. I mean, I know Rodgers isn't the absolute divine power here on what's good and what's bad, but I mean, a manager at his class, if he didn't think he was good enough to be a starting centre-half for Celtic, then why is it all of a sudden no? But I know, I had to get it off my chest about the whole Lustig thing. I love Lustig, right? But just people. I've just seen people going, "I should never let him go." People are
nonsense. It was
saying
done
that because we never really replaced.
He was done his final year. I loved him, and I'll not. You can go back and watch my videos from the final season he was here. I was like, we need to replace Lustig. He's done. His legs were
It's
gone.
the
He
whole thing,
wasn't
but like
fast.
he was the scapegoat. He got a slagging week in, week out, and it's the exact same happens with James Forrest. When Forrest not in the team, we need him in the team. When Forrest in the team, he's shite. Like it's the exact same. Lustig was in that bracket. But I just wish people wouldn't have this. I've moaned at other sets of fans in Scotland for having this revisionism about the past and that, but it happens quite a bit with our support about players that leave. Not every player that leaves. A lot of people can remember the bad with certain players like Jack Hendry, but I mean, it's just I just don't understand why people can't accept he's left. Let's just remember the good times, but don't try and say, "Look, we need him back."
See, when you bring up Hendry into that scenario there, it really just paints out the picture that if you've got a good personality, people in a couple of years' time will just want you back and rewrite history and such. Jack Hendry didn't have a personality. He didn't have that. He didn't have that connection with the Celtic fans that Lustig did. And I love Lustig. We're all entitled to love Lustig. He's one of the best characters we've ever had at the club. We all love the guy, and rightfully so. And he had a lot of good years at Celtic. But just because he's had a couple of good performances or had a good tackle at the Euros doesn't mean that he should be back in that Celtic team. We shouldn't have let him go. His time at Celtic was over, just like it was Sviatchenko. Hendry, people are never going to do it because he didn't have that connection that Lustig did.
It's people that are saying that Lustig's still playing at the Euros at 34. Look, he could still be doing it for Celtic. Do you know the reason why he's playing? Do you know why he's playing for Sweden at the age of 34? It's because they do not have another right back that can play.
I think they've got that Kraft, haven't they? I think they've got Kraft in Newcastle. I think, and that's about it.
But they don't really have that many options at right back. It's basically they're going with somebody that's reliable and can do some sort of a job at the back. Yes, he's done well for Sweden, but he was getting his trousers, his shorts pulled down by Ryan Kent a couple of years ago. Like, we can't go back to that. It would stink of Izagiri coming back the second time if he was to go. But even worse, I would think, because he's 34.
I think there's too many people trying to say that we want him back, but I think there's people that are thinking that because of the way it worked out with Frimpong and El Hamed, that we should have kept him. At the time, we were all very much happy with Frimpong and El Hamed as being the replacements. In the 1920 season, we were pretty happy with it. It didn't work out last year, and Bathurst moved on. But for a season, like, I don't think too many people were that fussed. Like, no, a lot of people in that season were saying, we're lacking here at right back. Everybody was absolutely loving with Frimpong when he started playing, and El Hamed looked solid before he got injured. But nah, it's just the sort of looking back on the past and forgetting. Like, we just willingly neglect all the bad things that we were slating him for in the last season. But
so is Sviatchenko a big no for the two of you? Sorry.
I'd have to say no, just for the sake of, if we're being serious about moving forward as a club, and we had this argument with Gordon Strachan as well. Like, if we're being serious about moving forward and no looking back at all the stuff that's happened, about moving forward with a new vision, I'd rather go and see us buy different players and no revert back to the old ones.
Like I said in that Champions League reaction video, it's more about what the signing stands for than the actual person himself. If we're going for him, then where are we going? We're going backwards. It's purely sentimentality.
See, I know there's a certain need for experience as well, especially with the fact the team's going to be bare bones, but I don't know. That's what I'm saying. There's arguments for both sides. I don't really want him back, but I can understand people's arguments for it. Somebody that could come in with a bit of experience of playing for Celtic and an experienced head at the back, but that's what you're hoping Julian will be.
Exactly.
Julian's not had too many seasons with us, but in terms of playing the game, he's 28, 29. If he's got a young guy beside him, Julian's been a pretty decent centre-half for us. Granted, he went right into a post and put his cell at the game for about 9 months, but look, that's not his fault.
Fuck it, put McManus back in the back line, we'll be sorted. The other player that's been getting linked to the club, I cannot for the life of me, and I like to get my pronunciations right, we all know this, but I don't know what his first name actually is pronounced like, because I only heard of it this morning for the first time. I've not done my research into him yet. That's what I'm going to do. Is it Gerano Kerk of Utrecht? something like that. Girano, something.
It'll be Girano or something.
Girano, I think. I'm going to run with Girano for now. But Kirk, anyway, who made 34 appearances last season in the Dutch Eredivisie, scoring 8 goals, assisting 6 from, I didn't mean to say Dutch, it came out wrong. I just came out wrong.
You're taking a piss with his pronunciation.
No, I genuinely meant that. I just came out wrong. The Dutch Eredivisie last season on the right wing. He's now being linked with Celtic. There are murmurs that he's in talks with the club. A right winger is a position we need. Ryan, I think you've done the most research out of all of us in terms of what you've seen of this guy.
I just watched a video on YouTube. Basically, that's about the extent. I checked his Wikipedia page. I checked his.
Has he got the all clear? No far right extremist groups or nothing.
Well, I mean, he is a right winger, so.
Oh well, aye.
But do you know, right wing is the one position that we've needed bodies in for ages, and we've totally neglected it because we've just relied on Forrest. We just expect Forrest to be fit for every game, and he'll just play there. He'll play every week and he'll be fine, much like the Scott Brown rule. What happens when James Forrest gets injured? It all goes to shit. It all goes to shit. We don't have a replacement at right wing. So we have to play an attacking midfielder out wide who just so happened to have one of his worst seasons, probably the worst season of his career, maybe due to the fact that he was playing out wide for the majority of it. So it's good that I would like somebody to take the pressure off of James Forrest next season, because he is younger than James Forrest. What is he, 25, 26, I think he is? James Forrest isn't getting any younger. James Forrest is, what is he, 29, 30 now?
30, 31, something like
that. The shelf life for wingers is not very long when compared to other positions on the park. We need to start thinking of life after James Forrest, as weird as that sounds, because I've always imagined him as being like a 20-year-old for Celtic, but that's just the way it is. We need to think about long-term these positions. We need to be strong. We can't have sentimentality on the right wing as well. You've got to have pace in that position. And over the next couple of years, I do expect James Forrest's pace to go down, because that's just natural. It happens in every footballer, but more so the pace merchants that are out wide. So yeah, it's a position that we do need filled. I don't know what that says about Shved, but I think he'll be on his way out.
I forgot Shved. To be honest, I've perfectly accepted that he's not going to have a future at this club. I don't think he's going to do anything, is he? Let's be fucking honest. He's quite clearly. Let's get real. He's fucked. He's fucked. Kieran, you happy with the talks of a right winger coming in?
I know it's definitely needed. I don't think many people can try and argue against it, because we look at last season, as Ryan said, we had Christie playing out there and it just was not working the slightest. We never gave a chance to Karamoko Dembele for whatever reason that may have been. But I think if we get an actual right winger in, that spells the end for any hopes of Dembele getting a shout.
It's a good question.
I'd like to see a new manager properly assess him, if he thinks he's fit to actually go in the team, then go for it. I don't want him put in just for the sake of appeasing people like me that want to see him in the team. If he deserves it, then I'd like to see him get a chance.
This is the way that I think of it. I think we have 6 months to make a decision on Karamoko Dembele. He's in the final year of his contract. Come January, he will be open to speak to any club. And I don't think he'll be short of suitors. I think there'll be clubs all over Britain, if not Europe, who will be interested. Don't know what size of these clubs will be. They could be anywhere ranging from big clubs to small clubs. There'll be no shortage of options, is what I'm saying. Right. So we have 6 months to properly assess him, see if he's going to be of use to the club. We need to give him chances, though. We're not going to convince him to stay at Celtic if we don't give him chances. Now, I don't think Karamoko Dembele will be expected to be on that team sheet every week. I don't even think he'll be expecting to get time every week. But if he's not given the chances when it is best suited, he'll be on his bike, I think. So we've got to properly assess that situation.
Right. I think he'll get his chance in pre-season. I think we've got 3 games coming up. The team's still a bit bare bones, so I think he will get a chance. Who is it we're playing? Charlton and Sheffield Wednesday and Bristol City down in Wales. I think these are behind closed door friendlies. We'll see a lot of rotation, and it'll be the perfect opportunity for him and some of the other young guys to try and show Postecoglou what they can do. I'm looking forward to seeing who can actually try and step up, because I think it's a clean slate for a lot of them. I mean, obviously you've got Okoflex away.
Aye, that's him.
the live streams off. But
baby, can never stop thinking
that was the moment that those live streams were the moment this season just started. We just get bad karma after those live streams.
That was his fault. It was his fucking fault. It was also when the lockdown peaked. That was at its best, you know. The one that I can never forget alongside baby.
That,
the one I could.
And the other one, the one that got into a wee bit of bother.
Let's not talk about that one. But the one that I'll never forget is the boy jumping out his window. Right, remember that? He just launches his cell out the window and Uncle Flex is like, oh my God, is he okay? He's just getting the answer.
It was the guy breakdancing to the BBC News theme. It was brilliant as well.
Honestly,
somebody should put up a highlights package for Okoflex and just have that.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Okoflex gone. Yeah, it's going to be a good opportunity. These friendlies. Are they on the? Are we getting them season ticket?
I'd imagine so.
So are we going to out ourselves? Are we going to out ourselves right now? As we've all renewed. After months of podcasting, saying, you know what, I'm not going to renew.
No, I say to hold off. My only problem was with people that were blindly gaining their money before we even had a manager. That was the thing I couldn't wrap my head around. But now people were well within their rights to make the decision based off what they thought of the manager. The manager came in, we heard the interviews. It was up to us whether or not we bought into it or not. And I don't know, I was a bit sceptical, but I've bought into it now. The guy's in the door. I'm on to back him.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to hopefully getting back to the stadium as well, as of Mr. Leach's thing this morning.
Yes, that's nice. Nice transition, by the way, Kieran. Very well. Yeah, we've got a new host sorted. Fantastic.
That's it. He's coming. He's coming.
That's my job away. Shout out to GigPod. Yeah, Jason Leach came out this morning, of course. What's his actual title? Chief Clinical Director, something? Professor? I don't know, some numpty.
He's a dentist. He's a dentist.
Yeah, Jason Leach came out today and says, well, of course, with the usual ifs and buts, that there could be full capacity grounds come August 10th, which would be magical. Like, my plums are pumping.
Did you see what the first game? Did you see what the first game would be?
Is it not the Old Firm?
No, it's St Mirren at home, the last game that we played before.
That's quite creepy, by the way, isn't it? That is quite creepy. Imagine that. Like, imagine we got to the game and they were like, oh, well, I don't know what. I was about to say, imagine they went, continue for 5-0. Don't know why they did that, considering the game finished, like, they blew the final whistle.
They never stopped halfway through. Whole COVID game. Up the road.
I'd like to see the starting 11 of that game and see what players we'll have by then, if that is going to be the case.
I'm howling at the thought of the stewards are rushing us out for a pandemic half time.
What was it? Griffiths got a hat trick in that game.
Yep, that's right. Maybe here is this where he picks his form up? Is that it? Is it like St Mirren? Oh fuck, here we go. So we're hoping for full crowds. It's just a marvellous thing to hear.
It says if it all goes to plan, but I don't know what that means. So
it means be prepared to be let down when it doesn't go according to plan.
See, what I'd like to see as well, but obviously there's things lifting on July 19th for outdoors and that. I'd like to see no test events in the sense of like I'd not realistic in terms of getting like shoulder to shoulder. I think there will be socially distanced, but I'd like to see about 20,000 plus at the games against West Ham and Preston. Absolutely. I'd love to see a lot more, but I mean, see half capacity Celtic Park just to try and ease our way in. I'm just choking for something like that. Sunny day.
Oh, shots. I missed it. We drink. No, I missed the thought. Do you know what I'll tell you? This podcast's been brilliant today. We're just getting into these rabbit holes and I love it. But I missed the feeling of going to the game in the nice weather with your shorts on and just your Sellik top shorts. Like, you don't need to take a jacket with you. You don't need to,
There's not too many games a season where we can get to do that. Most of the time it's a big pocket jacket.
But at the same sort of argument, I like the cold days as well when it's freezing at night and you're just walking to the game. But you're still buzzing because you might get something nice on the way there, like some food or that. And I just miss the game so much. I want some hope that I can cling to and that I can be back at Celtic Park. It's the thing I've missed the most. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I just want to be back. I'm gagging for it.
It's like the world has gradually been getting a bit more normal. Like, I've been in the pub and such now, but down in London, it was the most normal I've ever seen life in the past. Like, Kieran, of course, both of us were there, but when we were in both of those bars on the Friday and the Saturday night, it felt normal. If there was nothing to suggest that we would just been in a pandemic, it was brilliant. But the one thing that we've been missing is being at the football. That's the massive one that's been gone. So when that's back, I well and truly feel like normality's back.
The one thing it gave me the fear, I'm pretty sure I said something about barring if there's no any like COVID hotspots. I'm like, well, Glasgow's always going to be a COVID hotspot, and just due to the sheer numbers. But that's what's annoying, because you could see other people in other teams, like other stadiums, with full capacity, and we're sitting there with nobody potentially. I mean, I don't think it can happen, but if everybody's vaccinated, then I don't see how we can move backwards.
Look,
for us.
The way I look at it is, once everybody's vaccinated, there's fuck all else they can do. That's it. You know, they've got everybody vaccinated. There's literally nothing else they can do. They need to move forward.
Not to get too political, but COVID is one of these things that will just never go away. It will just develop variants, and we just need to get a top up every year, I would say, in the form of a vaccine, much like the flu. It'll always be there. We just need to learn to live with it, because we can't let this sort of virus control our lives. I'm sorry for going pure political on this, but
fuck me, who let Tommy Sheridan on?
Do you know, it's getting quite tiring living like this. I just want to get back to normal.
Very. And I think everybody's at that point now. You get the odd one or two people. You've seen those posts after London that people are putting up, like, oh, God forbid the footy was off and all the rest of it. You know, we've seen all these posts. I'm like, oh, fucking geese peace. Like, there's a few people who are obviously still in the mindset of this is a virus. We need to be serious. But I think the overwhelming majority of people living in up and down the country are under the impression of this can't go on much longer. We're getting our vaccines. Life has to go on.
If people have been told to take a vaccine for the way out and it's not the way out, then
what is the way out? Like,
but I think I'm hopeful that we are nearing the end now. And hopefully we're on the straight and narrow here, and as of August 10th?
August 10th. Yep.
So the first game after that, hopefully we're on a packed Celtic Park. We can all cross our fingers for that. I think everybody's behind that.
And we can work together to figure out a song to fit Ange Postecoglou's name. That's what I look forward to.
Why? Leave them in the comments.
Leave in the comments you got any ideas. Ryan, did you have one that you put in the chat or you sent to me and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Do you know, it must have been a couple of days after he was rumoured. It was to do with Down Under or something like that. He's bringing back the fun.
I insist that Ange Postecoglou came from a land down under and he listens to the Sellik the Thunder. That's our version of the song.
Why would he listen to anything else? Let's be perfectly honest. We are his friends. Remember, they are not your friends.
They're not your friends.
They are not his friends. Let's move on quickly and get these two last segments out of the way, because this has been a brilliant show today. I've loved this. We're going off Zoom with a bang. This is it. We're giving Zoom the proper send off it deserves for hosting us for 6 months. Hopefully, going off Zoom and going into a studio will reflect Celtic's performances. Hopefully, we go from shite to good. Hopefully it mirrors each other quite well when we move into the studio. So we'll wait and see. Also, big shout out to everybody. Go and follow the podcast page as always at Sellik Podcast on Twitter. That's SELLIK Podcast. Go and follow it. The people who are getting involved with the suggestions for backdrop items, some of them were absolutely fantastic for items to have in the background. I'm a big fan of the Brendan Rodgers autobiography. I think that should go in the background. I like
that's the Bible. That's the Bible for us.
That is. I was a big fan of the chimney that Thomas submitted. The chimney, the Sellik chimney, put that in the background. There's a few good items in there. So, Kieran, you've invested in the coasters, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Aye. I mean, you won't really get to see them, but they'll be there on the table.
They'll be there, and they're always there. Right, so we'll get through these questions very quickly. James, of course, who's been part of the phone-ins and a regular listener, he said, do we still definitely need a director of football, or could the gap possibly be filled by Dom and Ange working together in the scouting department, making decisions as a group? Still personally want a director of football, but I'm significantly less worried after hearing Dom and Ange. Ryan?
Yes, we still need a director of football. I don't want Ange doing all of that work, and it feels like they're trying to put him in too many jobs at once. That's what we've done with previous managers and CEOs as well, that were doing jobs that weren't supposed to be there. So let's just employ the correct amount of people for the jobs. And if we're talking about modernisation, we need a director of football in order to aid that process and to accelerate us into becoming a modern football club.
Kieran?
Well, said about Dom Mackay there, as much as he sort of spoke well, I just want to move away from the whole thing that Peter Lawwell was acting like he was the the director of football overseeing transfers, and I'd like to move away from that and let him stick to the business side of things. And I'd like to think Dom Mackay knows that he's got this. He kept saying he's the outsider, so I don't think he's going to thrust himself into the sort of things that Lawwell was up to. And I think he will just sort of take a back seat and let the people that are there for the football side deal with the football side, while he just deals with the business.
That's something else I liked that they talked about. The footballing department will do that.
I like that. I was actually going to say that there.
I could wax lyrical about him saying that all day, because that is exactly the way modern football clubs run. That's just what I want to hear.
Because you look at like Edwin van der Sar at Ajax, the way it works for him, he's there to work on the footballing department. They've got their business guys, but he's there to work on the football. Matthew Duff has asked, partnership of Vuskovic and Stephen Welsh discussed. Quick fire answers. Go, Ryan.
Welsh will be out on loan next season, so I don't see that happening.
That's
big goal.
Big call. Kieran?
Christ.
What is
the thing is,
calling one of them Christ.
In terms of Welsh, but I mean, I'd like to see him do all right, but he's certainly not starting Celtic centre back next season.
Absolutely.
Not a chance.
The thing is, and you know what, I've completely forgot what I was going to say there. The thing is, Stephen Welsh is 21, so he'd be 2 years older than Vuskovic, which is mental to even think that.
It's mad. It just shows you the levels that.
Imagine him pure bullying him in the dressing room, getting him in nuggies and all
that. Welsh cannot start for Celtic next season. I've said it time and time again. Yes, he did improve and he quietly impressed me, but he looked better than what he was because of the shite we had to endure beforehand. That is the blunt and honest truth.
Rotational, yes, but not a fully fledged starter.
I'd agree with that.
Mark Kearney, who of course was on the last phone in, we'll hopefully do a phone in this week as well, but he was on the last phone in, spoke very well. Mark, regular contributor in these replies. He says Ange spoke brilliantly, and he says let me start that again. Sorry, Mark. Ange spoke brilliantly, and he says, as he said, it's all words. I think we need this cloud lifted, and a good start against the Danish mob will put a bit of life back into the support. But it's not defining of the season. What's success looking like this year? I want it all, but I don't expect it. Is success, as a lot of people already said, Ryan, about just getting the performances on the park nailed first and showing signs of improvement? Yeah,
it's all about progression, I would say. I mean, I don't think it'll be too hard to bridge that 25-point gap, because that was a bit of an anomaly last season. Like, that just shouldn't have happened. We should be able to beat the other teams around us, apart from being like competitive against Rangers. Like, come on, we need to do a lot better than we did last season. As long as I see improvements both on and off the pitch in terms of recruitment, in terms of the way we play, the style of play, then I've definitely got a wee bit more patience with us. But it would be nice to wrestle the title back, but it's not maybe not the be all and end all in the first season, I would say.
But do you agree, Kieran? We've spoken about this privately a few times.
See, I liked his closing sentence there, Mark. I want it all, but I don't expect it. I think that sort of sums up most of the support this season. Obviously, everybody wants to win the league back this season, whether that's realistic or no. There's a lot of work to be done. And as much as we all would love to think so, that we could go and win the league back, it would take a monumental effort from us and a bit of a downward turn over the Clyde at Ibrox. I mean, I think they'd need to start, maybe need to sell some of their players and hopefully no replace them. And I don't know, I think we did a lot of things to go in our favour for us to proper go for it this season. But I mean, as Ryan says, as long as there's clear signs of improvement, I think everybody will have a bit more patience for us. And even though we do want to win the league back, I think everybody is in the same boat that we'll give this guy time as long as he's shown signs of improvement.
Absolutely. I would agree. Right, yes or no answer. Vuskovic, will he be one of the two starting centre-halves next season?
Yes, and he'll sign for us next week.
Oh, nice.
Oh, fuck me, man. That's better no point.
Purely because it needs to happen. We need to get him in the door. So, what we waiting
assuming he signs, yes. Because we don't think we've got that many.
I agree. Do you think that Ange Postecoglou will get the best out of Callum McGregor, says James? I think so. I'm excited for the rebirth of Callum McGregor, I must say.
Captain Callum McGregor to you and me, which it looks like it's going to be. I think as long as he as long as he isn't defending too much in his midfield role, then and he's got somebody behind him that can do the defensive work, whether that be Sorrow or somebody else that gets brought in, then I think he can excel like he has done in previous years.
I think if he's got Sorrow behind him, he can then go back to that role of being the sort of box-to-box midfielder, which you see, he likes to carry the ball up the park, and if he's doing that for too deep, he doesn't get the time and the space, and I think hopefully it does work out with Sorrow as well, and we can sort of see the best from him next season, but that's supposedly what Postecoglou's all about, getting the best out of players that are already there, and hopefully we can see Cal McGregor enter a new chapter in his career.
And finally, Spunkphone has contributed, as he likes to regularly do, and he's asked, do you think Ange likes Hayley Williams? There's your question.
I think he does, but I think he prefers Kylie Minogue a wee bit more.
1986 Ange definitely loves Hayley Williams. Have you seen the photo of him in 1986? What a hunk. What a hunk. That's our manager voice. I think
him and Brendan Rodgers went to the same hairdresser in the 80s and 90s.
Somehow.
Mullets for days.
Aye. Well, thank you everybody for sending your questions. As always, get involved by following us on Twitter. The followers have been going up like mad recently. We're just about to hit 1,400 over there, so let's get as many as we can over on that Twitter page, heading into the new era of the Sellik the Thunder next week, hopefully. Finally, there will be a phone in hopefully soon as well, which the phone-ins will be done through Zoom for now, so technically there will be podcasts in Zoom, but it's not quite the same. Might just branch that off into a separate series sort of thing so that we can, say that the podcast is from the studio. We have a quiz to go through. It's time for the end of the show quiz. Matthew Duff, of course, sending us in our quiz as always. Look, I would like to quickly say, because I've not touched on it in today's show, on the version of the phone-ins, we have a quiz that we call the Can They Play quiz in relation to the great Bertie Auld. That's not today's quiz. That's what we do with the callers. We ask, can they play, in the words of Bertie. Sadly, last week, Bertie Auld was diagnosed with dementia, and I'd like to quickly just say on behalf of the Celtic the Thunder that our prayers are with Bertie and his family. I think all of us, to an extent, have been touched with stories of dementia personally, and we know it's a horrible, horrible thing. So we hope the best for Bertie and his family. And as always, we do everything with the names and the titles to respect and honour Bertie as one of the greatest players to ever play for Celtic, and obviously a Lisbon Lion, a European Cup winner. So prayers, of course, and thoughts with Bertie and his family. But today's quiz is what do we call it again? I forgot what we called the normal quiz.
I believe that if you know your history quiz was thrown about.
That's it. If you know your history quiz, that's the one. I forgot the name of my own quiz. Jesus Christ almighty. We've not done this in a while. We'll play the music and all the rest of it. Kieran and Ryan, I don't know who won the last time you were in a quiz, so I'm just gonna. We've been doing the callers one. We've got a good record going. We've won. Yeah. I want to be able to play the next one though, because it's my turn to fucking go through somebody I'd have to. I've got two sets of questions, and I'm going to just go and say, Kieran, pick heads or tails, and I'll let you choose if you want to go set A or set B, mate.
Cool. Heads.
Heads, okay. We'll flip the SD card, I threw it across the room, and it's landed on tails. So Ryan, set A or set B, mate?
Set A for Ange.
Oh, smart. So Kieran, you get B for, there was a certain...
Bertie.
B for Bertie, there you go. It was a story from a London taxi that I could have told there, but I think I'll save that for an after hour show.
That's...
Anyway,
you make it sound so much worse than it is, man.
I know, I do. I make it sound worse than it actually is. It's not bad.
Sellik after dark.
Celtic, the Friday special we've always alluded to. Ryan, that means you're first. You know how it works. Penalty shootout style fashion. Here we go. Celtic youngster Armstrong Okoflex has left Celtic to join which Premier League club?
West Ham United.
Good start. Well done, Ryan. That's one. Kieran, your chance to equalise. Who's the manager of Celtic's women's team?
Fran Alonso.
Correct. Good start, boys. Back to you, Ryan. Mario Viscovic, can't even say his name. Viscovic has been linked with Celtic, but he currently plays for which Croatian side?
Hajduk Split.
Correct. It's on to Kieran. Who does Celtic face in the opening game of the season, the league campaign?
Hearts,
correct. In which minute did Celtic's Callum McGregor, so that's for you, Ryan, score against Croatia at the European Championships?
I was steaming. How was I supposed to know this? Oh no. 55th.
It was in the first half. That's how stupid you were. It was in the first half, aye.
Oh God, man.
Do you mind if I have my guess, Kieran, before I move on?
42nd.
That's correct, aye. 42 is the answer.
Mate, he doesn't get an extra point.
No,
for
I
that.
don't get a point for
No, he
that.
doesn't get a point for it, but that is correct. 55th. You fucking hell, how much did you have to drink?
It's that number that haunts me.
Question 3 for Kieran to take the lead. Which club did Celtic goalkeeper Connor Hazard move on loan to during the 1920 campaign?
Ooh. I feel he's been on umpteen loan moves, but I can't. Connor Hazard. I don't know. Partick Thistle.
No, it was not, Ryan.
Is it
Do you like-
Morton?
No, it was Dundee. Dundee was the answer to the
I would
question.
not guess that.
I get him and Doing mixed up with our loan moves.
Yep, absolutely. How many points has you, Ryan, to take the lead here? How many points did Postecoglou's Australia rack up in the 2014 World Cup group stages?
They lost all 3 games, so it'll be nothing.
Correct. 0 points. Kieran need this to equalise. Odds Edouard's under-21s France team were knocked out by the Netherlands in which round of the under-21s championships?
Quarterfinals.
Correct. Last question for you then, Ryan. Can you get it right? Which shirt number does highly rated Celtic defender Leo Hjelde wear?
Is it got a number?
Apparently.
Aye, for what?
What, for Ross County?
Aye.
I think it's for Celtic. I think he's got. I don't know.
What
It's
you
a
meant to
number.
know that?
I don't know.
Is Is it 57?
No, it's not.
That's Welsh.
It's. Do you know, Kieran?
No.
72 apparently. Your face. Final question then, Kieran. If you get this right, you will win. Oh, Jesus. This is a tough one as well. He's ended it. He gave you quite good questions and then we've ended it with hard ones.
False sense of security with these, man. Honestly.
How many minutes did Celtic players play in total during Euro 2020? I'll give you it if you get it within 45 minutes. So how many minutes did Celtic players play at Euro 2020? I'll give you it if you get it within 45.
I can't. I'm trying to do the maths in my head as well to just try and calculate up one game. I don't know. I don't know. Fuck me. I don't know. 2000. I don't know.
Apparently, 259 is the answer. Your face. I feel like it should be more than that.
I was expecting high, but I mean,
I know.
I'm thinking because Henry got taken off and then McGregor didn't play the first game. And
I know, see, to be fair, in my head, I think I'm calculating for every player that got called up to have played all 90 minutes in all 3 games. But even then, I think it's anywhere near 2000, man.
So I think he's both ended on 3. So that means we have a tiebreaker question. And I'll give it to the person who gets the nearest answer. Ryan, you go first, mate. How many goals for Scotland did Kenny Dalglish score?
35.
35, okay. Kieran?
42.
I can reveal that the winner of this week's If You Know Your History quiz is Ryan McGinley, because the answer is 30. That's how many goals he scored for Scotland. So there you go, Ryan. You can take that and
he probably got more caps than Liverpool than he did for Celtic, because Celtic players hardly even get called up those times.
Jimmy Johnson didn't have a great amount of appearances for Scotland, if I remember rightly.
He's only got a handful.
He didn't have a lot at all. And of course, Jinky was the best, so it doesn't make much sense. That's us then. We're here at the end of what has been a fantastic return show. I really enjoyed that today, lads. Thanks very much for jumping on. I hope if you have been listening, you have enjoyed yourself too. Make sure to go and follow us on Twitter. Check out our social medias to be updated on when we'll have a phone in and the next episode and such. And hopefully, the next time we see you on the podcast, we will be live in a studio rather than over Zoom. So it's something to look forward to. Any final thoughts, Kieran or Ryan?
It's going to be disappointing if the next one isn't in the studio, if how much we've built this up. But
I know.
I think I've got any closing thoughts.
God bless Ange Postecoglou.
Nicely said.
Let's get this going. Let's get this going.
Yep. Right. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.